Jill Valentine is one of the most popular characters in the entire Resident Evil storyline. She's been featured in many of the mainline titles and has been one of the pillars of the series since her first appearance in the original game. However, you may have noticed that Jill in Resident Evil 1 is an entirely different beast than Jill in Resident Evil 5. And if you're like me, you may have some questions as to why. Those questions namely being, what in the heck is that thing? When did she learn to do this? And is blonde really a good look for her?
I would expect you to be happier to see us. Us. So slow to catch on.
Jill.
Let's start first with the question of Jill's new hairstyle. After Chris, Jill, and Wesker's skirmish at the Spencer estate that led up to the events of Resident Evil 5, Jill and Wesker took a tumble out of a large window of the estate, and were assumed dead by the BSAA. Of course, we now know that that wasn't true. Wesker in fact saved Jill's life after the fall, having plans to use her later as a test subject for a virus that he would be working on, known as the Ouroboros virus. Wesker brought the unconscious Valentine to a long-forgotten Umbrella laboratory in Africa, where he discovered that he had a thing for blondes, and decided to perform the dye job on Miss Valentine himself. Alright, maybe not that last part. What he actually did was place Jill in a state of cryogenic sleep, until such a time came about when the Ouroboros virus was ready for testing.
Jill.
However, Wesker was having some issues getting Ouroboros to the point where it was actually suitable for human trials. As it stood, the progenitor flower was far too lethal for any sort of real experiments to be performed. This meant that Jill was in stasis for quite some time, and as a result, the tank caused Jill to have a pigmentation abnormality, namely causing her hair to turn from its typical dark brown to a very light blonde. Which leads us into the second question of what the heck is this thing? So as I mentioned previously, Wesker had placed Jill in stasis until he was able to lessen the lethality of the progenitor flower and use her as a test subject. He was having issues with this, however, until he was graced by some extraordinary luck. Jill, while in stasis, was having some abnormalities in her vitals, and upon inspection, it was found that she had a mutated strand of the T-virus still in her body, left over from the events of Resident Evil 3. When Wesker went to inspect the leftover virus, however, it disappeared, Jill's body having created a powerful antibody to combat the hostile virus. Wesker hypothesized that this antibody would be valuable for his research into Ouroboros, and it proved to be the breakthrough that he needed. This, however, meant that Jill could no longer be used as a test subject for the virus, however, because she was a catalyst for much of the research. Instead, Wesker found another use for Miss Valentine. During Tricell's extensive research into the progenitor virus, they found an ancillary chemical contained within. The researchers called this chemical P30, and in trials with the chemical, they found that it not only gave the subject superhuman abilities, but it also made the subject highly susceptible to mind control. In short, this chemical was perfect for creating mindless superhuman combatants. However, there was a severe downside. The effects of P30 only lasted a short time before being metabolized and expelled by the body at an expeditious rate. This meant that the subject would need to be constantly administered the drug at frequent intervals. This made P30 much less viable, But a workaround was still possible. A device would need to be attached to the subject, a device that would constantly administer the drug, keeping the subject under its effects. And what do you know? Wesker just so happened to have the perfect guinea pig for this particular experiment. One Jill Valentine.
Jill, come on! It's me, Chris! Snap out of it!
Nice move, Chris. But now that your partner has arrived, I'll leave you two to catch up.
So to sum up, while some of the things in Resident Evil 5 may seem to come out of left field, or at least they seem like that to me at first, there is usually an actual reason behind them, such as Jill's insane hike in physical ability and her new hairstyle. Jury's still out on who exactly picked the purple catsuit for her, but if Resident Evil Revelations is anything to go off, it seems like that's a choice that she's grown fond of, so all's well that ends well.